Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about a passing pattern exercise that you can do with your youth soccer teams. So let's go. In the last video that I did, I went over Belgian box, which is a great way to introduce technical skills to your youth teams. Well, today I'm going to talk about a passing pattern that you can do directly off that Belgian box. And I don't do this a lot. I tend to focus more on tactical stuff, positional play games, things like that. You guys know that. But this is a nice thing to do once in a while. Here you can see our Belgian box setup. This doesn't have to be done in association with Belgian box, but it's a really nice transition. So the orange cones here make up two squares, a smaller one and then a larger one on the outside. The exact size of the two squares is going to depend on the skill level and age of your group. I prefer to remove the red and blue cones here, especially for the younger ages, but you don't necessarily have to if you have an older team or maybe a little bit more advanced team where the red and the blue cones are not going to get in the way. We start with a player at each cone, and I'm just going to show it right here with 8 players to start, but if you have additional players, they actually have to be on the outside cones, which I'll show in a minute. We start by going up, back, and through down these 2 channels and across down these 2 channels. We start with one ball at the player who's here in the top left corner. That player starts the pattern off with an up ball to this player here. The ball is then played back to the player in the adjacent inner square cone. The pattern finishes with a through ball to the player on the adjacent outside cone. The ball is then played across to the other channel where they will go up, back, and through, this time going up the other channel versus down. The ball is then played across for the pattern to be repeated. So this is the beginning pattern, and you just start with one ball, and what happens is the kids are going to actually follow their own pass. This is what it looks like with 12 players and having the players follow their own pass. Be aware that if you have less than 12 players, for example, if you had 10 players, you would need to put the extra players on these 2 cones. If you don't do this, there won't be somebody there to receive the ball going across the channel as they're following their own pass. If you have 8 players, for example, then they'll actually have to dribble it across that channel. There won't be a person there. So putting it all together, here is a bird's eye view of what it looks like to go up, back, and through the 2 side channels, and then to go across the top channel and the bottom channel, and what it looks like with the players following their own pass. Here's an example of the passing pattern from a session I ran a couple of weeks ago, and you can see my coaching position. I actually like to be outside of the large box on this one. The first point that we want to get across is players receiving a through ball have to check their shoulder. I mean, in an actual game, in a situation where you have to play the ball immediately back to a player, typically is when you have defensive pressure right on you. And the only way to know that is to check your shoulder and see what's behind you. This is a really good example of a player checking his shoulder before playing it back on a through ball. It's subtle, but it's a really important trait to develop. The next coaching point is angles and body shape when you're receiving the ball. For example, the player receiving the through ball here. This player needs to give the best angle possible to the ball carrier to receive the ball, as well as get his body in the right position to play a ball across the channel. Instead of standing right on the cone, we encourage them to open up a little bit for the ball carrier and then receive it across their body and even take a positive touch in the direction to which they're going to go. Here's a nice example of a player who initially is not in the greatest angle, opening up, receiving it across his body, and then playing it across. Other coaching points like communication, eye contact, working together, these all come into play when we start adding our progressions. The first progression is normally a touch progression. So I keep it at one ball, same pattern, but if you're on the inside cone, you have to do one touch. And if you're on one of the outside cones, it has to be 2 touch. The next progression is to add a second ball. It's the same pattern of up, back, and through down the 2 channels, with it going across the other channels. But this time, when you add a second ball, the level of execution, quality, and concentration has to go up. Here's the boys doing an up, back, and through with 2 balls, and I do like a little bit of chaos here, so I try not to correct if, let's say, the pattern goes astray or somebody loses a ball. I like to have the players try to figure out where they are on their own while this is going on. And again, that just adds to the concentration, communication, as well as the technical points. The last progression is to add 4 balls. Now this can be really challenging and does require a fairly high-level team to pull off. The thing to note here is that that initial ball going across the channels actually goes to the second person in line receiving it. Another progression you can do with these guys is, instead of going up, back, and through and then across the channels, you can go up, back, and through the entire way around the square. Hey guys, I hope you like that passing pattern. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or reach out to me personally.